Well, that went perfect. It is 9 o'clock, so we'll think about getting started in earnest here. I want to first of all, again, thank you all for being here on this wonderful December morning, not afternoon. It's 9 in the morning right now, and we are getting towards the holiday season. So I hope that those of you who enjoy that time are able to. Oh my gosh, I'm having an internet issue here. Okay. Well, I hope that you guys are able to revel in all that is wonderful this season. And if you're not into that sort of thing, I hope it moves by very quickly for you all. But my name is Tom, and I am your guy and your guide for this morning. And I would love, many of you have done this already. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Krista. If you could throw your name, hello, and where you're coming from in the chat this morning, we'd appreciate that. We're happy to see so many people bright and early here. Good morning. Hope you get a chance to connect with a friend you haven't seen in a while, or pass some ideas around. If you do forget, remember, if you click on that blue part in the chat, you can click on anyone's name. You can private message them. You can tell them about how great of a job I'm doing this morning. Anyways, we do have an agenda for today. Today's going to be a great agenda. I'm really actually excited for this meeting for a couple of reasons, because we get to have two great kind of partner presentations today. The first, we will hear some updates from our center just to close out the year, give you a sense of where we've been, where we're headed. But then we have a great session and a large chunk today from the Office of Exceptional Children, who will be engaging you all around some new resources, some things in development. Really excited about that, since you all are kind of the end users of a lot of these materials. You are connecting people to these. We want to make sure everyone's on the same page. We want to make sure everyone can give appropriate feedback, what they need to use those tools as effectively as possible. We'll also continue our discussion of partnering with families through special education. Hopefully you had a chance to read strategies 3 and 4 from that document. If you haven't already, maybe you could go back and skim that right now while I'm talking, so you can fully participate in that conversation. We'll have Gabriel Hicks, one of the co-authors of that, here again to give us some feedback on our ideas. We'll wrap up with just a little bit of work group time, just something for people to touch base. If you haven't been able to make meetings outside of here, if it's been a little bit of struggle getting together here, we get everyone on the same page, set off for a strong 2023. Okie dokie. So if there are no major objections to this agenda, then we will keep it on. So first of all, just want to engage you to a little check in with you all. We know that it is a crazy time of year as schools look towards the break, and you all maybe as well. So I'm wondering if you would all indulge me by sharing in the chat which snowman you feel like today. You can identify that by the number next to that. Thank you, Letitia. I am with you on a 3. I am ready to go on a little vacation as soon as possible. Yes, so we're seeing a lot of 3s, some 8s coming in. Oh, I don't might need to have a little support group for our 8s out there. Number 6, I would like anyone who's feeling like a 6. I can give you my address, and if you could just ship me whatever goodies you're stirring up there, that would be great. I'm seeing a lot of smiles though, so that's beautiful, and that's something I am happy to hear. So 3, oh man, I need a scientific calculator for that, Kim. Three to the max there. I feel that as well. Thanks for chipping in on this fun little activity here. And those of you who were with me yesterday afternoon, I do think I deserve a little bit of credit for switching out the pictures. You didn't get to do, you didn't have to do the same check-in 2 days in a row here. But anyways, moving on. Thanks, Sam. I'm looking for a lot of affirmation this morning. We can run down at the end of the year. Just joking. I do want to pause here for a couple minutes and hand it over to my boss and the director of our center for some updates on what's going on here, what we've been doing, and kind of what that means for us moving forward.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be with you here this morning. It's great to see you as well. So Tom, I think you can just go to the next slide. We just wanted to give you some updates, and I have to get to total credit for Meredith Wellman for pulling not just the numbers together, but like the beautiful slides I get to share. So like this is definitely a group thing here. So just to report about this year, there's a few things I want to share that are kind of cumulative over a few years, but I'll try to point those out. So, and this is also available online. If you ever, talking to someone, what is this Statewide Family Engagement Center? You can always grab this and share about it as well. But a lot of this we accomplished with you. So if you could just go to the next slide. All right, so just one of the things that we feel like it's important to recognize and aim for is the fact that if we're going to be a statewide family engagement center, to be statewide, and a lot of that we're able to do because you are great partners with us and you're statewide. But wanted you to see that total reach, sort of we're looking at, we can account for a school, a district, someone attending trainings on our council, someone we've had a pretty deep connection with in all the purple counties. We hope we're touching people elsewhere, but these are the ones we can kind of capture. Our partnership schools, you can see in the orange there, and then our statewide family engagement center down there in the burgundy wine kind of color. I don't actually know the official term for that. And then the green would be folks from Ohio who we know are part of the Family Engagement Leaders of Ohio. And at yesterday's meeting, there were some new folks there too, so it's great to have new people. But I think that this is something we were always reaching for. And then on the next slide, this is something that we do with all of you. So I want to report, we've got 4 measures that everyone who receives this federal grant reports to the federal government. So we all report on these same 4 things. GEPRA 1 is how many families did we serve? And we don't just think like number of people who say they're a family member and click on our website, but they're people who we've engaged with through schools or ourselves. So our target was this year was 6,916. So our, let's see, am I saying this right, Meredith? Yes. And our actual was 6,224. It was up quite a bit from the year before. So Meredith has sort of laid things out from year to year. So approaching our target and growing from last year. On the next one here, the number of high impact activities to build statewide infrastructure, that's something that we measure, not only the things that we're doing, but things that we're doing with you, those things that are really statewide reach or have statewide impact. So our target was 5, we hit 6 this year. Our actual was 11 last year and our actual 11 this year. So we would say that we're exceeding our target, but we are, sort of maintaining. And number 3, the number of high impact activities to ensure families effectively engage in activities leading to student achievement. So this is something where we're really looking deeply at those schools in the Ohio Partnership Schools. We're looking at their plans and we are really sort of assessing them. Are those activities something that really could lead to or are leading to changes for students? Also, other activities that we are doing directly with families. So our target was 128 this year and the actual is 419. So we're feeling pretty good about that. But that's not something we could do alone as like one group working at OSU. It's something that we do through you and the community agencies that we work with. And then finally, the 4th measure there is the percent of families receiving supports who have reported, so it's not just they're there, it's not just that they've had a high impact activity, but they say, and it helped. So that's when we're constantly trying to get this information from folks who engage with us at a certain level, like at not just click on our website. again. So our target was 40% and our actual was 80%. So we're feeling pretty good about that too. So thank you for all of your help there. And I think I need to just move along. And then here, the recruitment of districts, you can see we've had some attrition from 16 districts to 12 districts in our cohort 1 with those Ohio partnership schools and 25 schools. So, but I would say through COVID and post-COVID, and that these are actually really exciting numbers. 17 districts and 34 schools are engaging this year in cohort 2, and 17 districts and 44 schools in cohort 3. Thank you. Thank you to you all who you have that, you recruiting them, you are talking to them about the benefit of having systemic family engagement. So, and we've included a few helpful comments here. And then next slide. And then just want you to know, sometimes when we talk to schools, they're like, oh, you have resources? And we're like, yes, we do. So if you are not aware of the hundreds and hundreds of resources that we have for districts, for families, for schools, for principals and teachers, for you, if you're not like actually sure, let us sit down and kind of walk you through it and just show you kind of how you can locate things that you might need. But these are just a smattering of some of those tools that we have developed here in Ohio with you, with other Ohioans. So anyway, thanks for giving me time to just give an update.
You know, 2 years later, still cannot figure out how to unmute myself at certain times. So thanks for bearing with me. Thank you, Dr. Boone, for sharing that. We do have 2 or 3 minutes here to just, I'm wondering, if people have any things come up just from seeing that overview, or have any ideas about what the kind of, next steps could be, or how they see this center continuing to support their work. Just pause a second for reflections.
Hi, this is Terry. I was just sort of curious what you guys are thinking of or going to propose as a next step for the NNPS as the grant, is coming along here. And do you have ideas of keeping that going somehow, or?
So yeah, Terry, I might, so I'm gonna say some things here that I feel pretty positive about, but have not been sort of like shared widely. And but number one is this: we know that we're going to have an extension of this grant into next year. We know that we are committed to continuing to do the supports that we do with schools. So at least 2 of those sort of what we're calling our booster trainings every year, providing those monthly colleague connects times to keep visiting schools and districts when we can, if that is helpful as well. What we are also committed to is sort of taking these trainings and Ohioizing them more and creating modules so that as we're continuing to support any district in Ohio that wants to get on board and wants to implement this model in their schools, this approach, will be able to do that and have some level of support from us to be able to do that. And we hope that your SSTs will be able to be a part of that. I'm going to get out ahead of the cart here. Don't get me in trouble. In that your funds this year, if you want to use some of them this year and then some of them into the next year, you can do that. And I know some of you are saying, like, why didn't you tell me that earlier? And well, I'm sorry. It takes me a while to wrap my head around these things. So this will all be coming out in a much more clear way. We're still, trying to figure out how does it continue to fit with your work? I hope it does. I know that we get calls from districts around the state that are saying, hey, I'd like to do this model. And first thing I say is, you know what, you've got a state support team in your region that knows about this model and could assist you, but we can as well. But we always, we try to make this like a very important thing for us. If we ever like really engage with a district or a school, we let you know, because we know that you are as well. And it's no fun having, not knowing who's coming and going and talking to schools. So anyway, so this is coming. I want you to know, so our goal is to continue to be Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center in perpetuity. How we do that, what funds that, we don't know. It's the name of this grant. Yes, this grant is ending, but you of all people, all of you know, funding ends and things change. That doesn't mean the work changes. It doesn't mean we're not going to keep doing what we've learned to do. That's not a good thing for education when we continue to roll through initiatives because the funding ends. But we've learned, we've changed. Now we continue to maintain, and we're committed to keep doing our role in that, and look forward to doing that with you in the capacities that you have as well. Did that answer your question good enough?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Cool.
Terry.
Cool. Don't want to rush away from this, but we do have our main attraction here. I'm sure that Dr. Boone and other Ohio State staff would be happy to answer questions if you pass anything on your mind into the chat or anything, or even later. We're gonna have some time for announcements and other questions. But right now, I would love to introduce a good colleague of mine, Dr. Sarah Westerfield Brooks. And she's going to here today to share about what's going on in the Office of Exceptional Children and beyond, some partnerships and things that they're working on and resources that way. And we're going to look at how we can incorporate this into our work thing. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Brooks, and I am the Assistant Director in the Supports and Monitoring Office at the Office for Exceptional Children. And I am also here today with my wonderful colleague, Lindsay Havey, that I believe most of you know as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And okay. All right, does everyone see my screen there? Okay. So for today's agenda, what we are going to do is talk about charting the life course and some initiatives that we have going on here at the Office for Exceptional Children. We'll talk a little bit about our new secondary transition roadmap. Then I will turn it over to Lindsay, who will provide some updates on our family webpage and our parent mentor site visits. And then hopefully we can answer any questions that you guys have before we turn it over to OCECD, who is actually reworking our guide to rights in special education, our parents' guide to special rights in special education, which is our procedural safeguards. So they will be here to show you our new setup and what that looks like, and to get your feedback as well. So at the Office for Exceptional Children, we are doing a lot of work around charting the life course tools. So the Charting the Life Course framework, if you're not familiar with it, was created to help individuals and families of all abilities and all ages to develop a vision for a good life. It's to really think about what they need to know and do, and to identify how to find or develop supports, and to discover what it takes to live the life that they want to live. So this framework is the keystone for supporting a community of learning that champions transformational change through knowledge exchange, capacity building, and collaborative engagement. And the Charting the Life Course framework was created to help, again, like I said, individuals and families of all abilities to develop a vision for a good life. And at the Ohio Department of Education, we are realizing the great benefits of these tools across the lifespan. So along with others in the state, we are encouraging families and educators and professionals to utilize these tools. And using secondary transition enhancement funds, what we have started is an initiative to train life course ambassadors across our state who will help disseminate the concepts and tools to districts, families, and organizations. So in our state, as you know, we have 16 state support team regions, and in each of these regions, we are going to train 4 individuals to be life course ambassadors. So 2 are going to be educators. This could be SST members. So this could be any of you who are interested, special education directors, special education teachers, anyone who works in special education. And we are also going to train 2 parent mentors in each region. And we are going to do this in the spring of the 2022-2023 school year. So this spring coming up. This is going to provide our state with 64 life course ambassadors that are going to be starting this work. So we are super pumped about it. It has taken a while to get moving, just with all of the hoops and everything we've had to jump through, but we are going to be ready to go really quickly here, and possibly within the next 2 weeks we are going to be sending out applications. So if you are interested in becoming an ambassador, please email me, and I will be sure that the minute those applications come out, that I get one to you, and I'll be sure to document your interest as well in my folders. So Lindsay, if you, I know she's going to provide our email addresses a little bit later, but if you could just pop my email address in the chat, that would be awesome. But again, keep an eye out and please forward this information to anyone who might be interested, because we want to be sure to fill those spots up. And then in addition, there will be a community of practice to support this work across the state once it is implemented. Then additionally, at ODE, we did a recent lunch and learn, and this was for all ODE staff members, just to provide an insight to what the life course tools were, to really spread the word about them and the initiatives that we're running. And then this spring, running simultaneously with that life course ambassador training, we are going to be doing a charting the life course guided implementation training. So this will be open to all ODE staff members. And what it is going to do is to provide our staff at ODE with the foundational knowledge and the necessary tools to discuss the concepts and how they can be beneficial across ODE. It is also going to give us the tools to support the work of the ambassadors that we are training across the state through those secondary transition enhancement funds. So next, I want to talk a little bit about our roadmap, but I want to tell you about where it came from. So as you all know, Each Child, Our Future is Ohio's strategic plan for education, and it's planned to ensure that each child is challenged, prepared, and empowered for his or her future. And so from Each Child, Our Future, each child means each child was developed and aimed at improving outcomes and experiences for students with disabilities. One specific focus of Each Child Means Each Child is the advancement of post-secondary learning experiences and outcomes for students with disabilities. And one of the ways that Ohio is doing this is through Tactic F of the plan, which is providing resources and training and coaching to students and families surrounding transition and graduation. One of those action steps is through developing resources for a post-secondary transition toolkit for families and just resources in general. So recently, our family engagement team developed the evaluation roadmap, and that was a family-friendly look at the evaluation process for families. And then regarding transition, we decided to expand on that and create a secondary transition roadmap. So I wanted to share this with you guys. So it is not out as of yet, but it is soon to be coming. So again, if we have a few minutes at the end of this presentation. I want to try to get through it fast so I can get your feedback on anything you think could be missing or needs to be added, or even, you know, just that you like it and think it's a good move. But this is an outline here of the map, and it walks through the secondary transition process. So it is going to be family friendly and interactive. So when families go to our family webpage, they're going to be able to click on all of these grades, pre-K to 5, 9th grade, our service plazas, and get to information that they need. So again, this is just a quick snapshot, but then the remaining pages provide detailed information. Again, it's interactive, provides links to documents. We also have great little suitcases that provide information throughout the road, and I'm kind of going to go through those here in a moment in a little bit more detail. We also have some construction cones, which that means things are coming soon. So that information will be popped in there shortly as soon as we get it. But we are enjoying sticking with this roadmap thing, and we would like to, or theme, not thing, and we would like to put together, you know, a little atlas of sorts with lots of different roadmaps. So this is our second in the process. So the actual document has a few subsequent pages that again go through all of those parts and portions of the roadmap. So we have the suitcase listed throughout. When you click on the suitcase, it will take you to this page, which just talks about, you know, your packing needs. And like it says, just like any good trip, you know, you have to plan and you know, pack your bag. So inside are resources that can be utilized all throughout the lifespan. So there are plenty of different links in here. And the reason that we put the suitcase throughout is because we want families to come back to these and you know, check through them and see if they're relevant. They may not be relevant at all times for everyone, but they're important to check back to see if there are relevant you know, topics that you should be addressing or could be beneficial. So next we start to go through the age and grade level mile markers, and all of these have the federal and state requirements. We try to really stay focused on the state and federal requirements in the specific age and grade range topics, because there's just so many resources, and we know families get overloaded, and that was one of the things we were trying to avoid. We wanted something clean and that provided those things that again from the state are federal or state requirements. So starting at with pre-K to 5, grade 5, we discussed that there's really nothing formal to do at transition at this age, but it's really important to start thinking about what you hope for your child's future. We also guide families to the early transition planning documents, and then we will eventually link them to our early learning roadmap, which is next on the horizon to be developed. We then move to grades 6 to 8, where we discuss the development of the student success plan and then link to more information for families to review. And then we go to age 14 and we discuss transition plans and age appropriate transition assessments. We go to entering 9th grade, where we discuss the process of developing a high school graduation plan. And we will also link to opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities and the services and supports that are available. Then we get to our first service plaza. So we have 2 service plazas on the document that provide specific resources for that age or grade level. So at Service Plaza 1, we talk about the age appropriate transition assessment and the indicator 13 checklist. At age 16, we talk about co-EDI and OEDI and the County Board of Developmental Disabilities and Eligibility, and provide links to that information as well. Next, we go to our second service plaza, which discusses information on obtaining an Ohio ID or a driver's license. So we have found that this is something really important students need once they graduate, but sometimes is a step that's missed. So we really wanted it to be on here, right? So of course, not everyone's going to get a driver's license, but everyone can get an Ohio ID. So we wanted to provide the resources for that. We are also talking about adding on transportation options and resources. So that's something we feel is really important that that individuals can benefit from as well. We then talk about when a child reaches the age of 17 and that the age of majority is about to come at 18, right? And so this is when a school district should be notifying you about the age of majority and that the child's IDEA rights will transfer to them at age 18. We then go to your child's 18, and that is the age of majority. We also link to some resources there for families so they understand that process and what options are for them at that time. And we have where your child's 22 years old, so they're no longer able or eligible for FAPE. And then we have you've reached your high school destination, and where we talk about a student graduating, leaving high school, and a summary of the child's academic and functional performance. So this part here, we were confused on where to put that. So if you guys have any feedback on that, we would love to get it, because not every child leaves or student leaves high school at 18. Not every student stays in high school till 22. So we are still up in the air on where we want this "you have reached your high school destination" component to be located on the front of the physical map, but then in our back pages as well. So that is the end of the roadmap. I will I have a few minutes till I have to turn it over to Lindsay. So let me just go back to the original main document, and I would love to get any thoughts or insight that you guys have on the roadmap. Any feedback? I can't see the chat, Lindsay, so if you
Yeah,
can.
I just was coming on to tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Pat, you're mostly getting a lot of kudos on the how it looks and the fact that there's, you know, a simplicity, but still there really is a lot of information. It's in the words that parents need to know in order to interact with school staff, but it still is accessible, and it seems to be mostly what I'm seeing. Feel free to unmute anyone if you have any additional comments or questions, thoughts, etc.
Yeah, any thoughts on what you guys think might be missing or need to be added? Or any thoughts? Really, I really want to get some insight on that that last page where your child is has reached their high school destination. That's of real interest to me.
What if where the 22 is on the roadmap and the "you have reached your final destination" are flipped, so that it kind of goes down after the 18, like directly below that would be "you've reached your final destination," at least on the one pager, so that the final thing is the final destination on the roadmap, and the 22 would then be like slightly above it on the left side.
Right.
So even though I know how you're trying to like alternate, but at least visually the last thing would be "you've reached your final destination," and then it would almost be like an either or, like either it's 18 or 22, but because otherwise it is a little bit like, oh, where does it go?
Right. And I really like that idea, because if it goes for the 22 goes over on the left and then you reach your high school destination on the right. Yeah, and I wonder if it could even be like an optional route or something like that, now that I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it out loud.
Like an either, like maybe
Right.
7 or 8, like together on the
Right.
little black part, like 7 or 8, either 18 or 22,
Right.
or somewhere in between. Yeah, 18 to 22.
Exactly. It could be a little, I don't know what the word
Oh,
I'm
I kind of
looking
like
is
that, Missy.
travel wise, like a little detour if you need it, you know?
Or the range, like Missy said in the chat, 18 to 22 years old, and just have it all in one
Oh,
block.
Yep.
I have a thought, and that is 2 thoughts that I'd like to share. One is I wish there was some way for it not to be a destination, but a taking off place, like
Okay. I like that.
I love.
you know, it's for
A
that
rocket ship?
future that you've been working toward planning. Well, on the road, I'm like, where will you go next? It's, I don't know. Oh, the
Right.
places you'll go. I don't know. Yeah, your new journey begins. I like that. Yeah, something like
I
that. So
like that.
that was one thought I had. And then the other was, I know that folks on here have been using the assessment roadmap that we love. And I just am wondering if like you've had experiences with families where you would have learned like, oh, this part's confusing or this icon isn't clear. I don't know if there was anything from the other one. And you all can turn on your cameras and mics too, like, feel free.
I love that though, because you're right. It's not, it's like, it is a high school destination, but it's not the ultimate destination. And you're off to leave for your destination, right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
I think sometimes we're focused on the work of the schools. And I think if we shift to like families and how a family
Mhm.
or this kiddo is going to think like their life, I think about how you feel at this time when you're like, here I
Mhm.
go. I don't know. It's that time of life where, you're
Right.
taking off. So.
Right. I love that. And we've had a lot of feedback on this and no one has said that. And I really, really appreciate that. I think that's great. Yeah. Anything else? Well, if you guys think of anything that, or, as your day goes on that, might be missing or anytime in the future, please feel free to email me or Lindsay, reach out and we will make sure to add it to our comments for our team to review. All right. Well, Lindsay, I will forward to the correct slides and I will hand it over to you.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you all so much for the feedback on this. And I'm glad to see some comments that people are really using the evaluation roadmap as well. That's really nice to hear that you're getting some use and value out of that. All right, well, this is a great segue because I already had an opportunity to put in the chat about the link to the Families of Students with Disabilities page. And that is the first update that I have for you, is that there are a couple of new items on the page. So as you know, the page was published in June-ish. And I did want to make sure you knew that in addition to the evaluation roadmap being there, we did get quite a few translations that were in there now. I think there's over 20. So we got all of the same translations that we had done with the Guide to Parents' Rights. So those are all there for you. If you find that there's something that you are missing, or that is needed in your region, please let us know. We want to make sure that this is accessible to all of our families in Ohio. So if there's a language need that you're seeing, please let us know. So also added to that page, if you scroll to the bottom of it, under literacy, there's a new section called Assessment Resources for Parents. We have some resources that we've added from Wendy Stoika and Matea Hammond on our assessment team. The first is an assessment toolkit for parents. This is information and resources that go over each of Ohio's state tests, as well as a variety of other types of tests. This is a resource that is elsewhere on our page, but we thought it was also a good fit here, so we're including it. And same goes for the other resource that we added under this section, which is the alternate assessment one-page flyer. That was created in January last year, so it's been about a year. And it just is a one-page flyer for families to describe the alternate assessment for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. And again, that is also elsewhere on our page, but in the interest of coming around to assessment season, we thought those would be good to have included on the families page. And as with the roadmap, if you all have any feedback or things that you are encountering as you support families directly, or as you're supporting districts in supporting families, if there are things you think would be helpful for us to consider for this page, please let us know. We're definitely interested in making this the best it can be for our families. All right, so my other update, another short one, is on parent mentors. For those of you who have been around for a while, you may know we used to do parent mentor site visits every year. Those have not occurred for the last few years, so we are looking at bringing those back, actually per request from our parent mentors. So this year we're going to have a limited number, but plan to grow next year and kind of get back into that regular cycle of site visits that have occurred in the past. What's a little different, and we are calling this a pilot, again, even though we've historically done site visits for many years, because our plan is to include a mix of virtual and in-person. So we are looking for, and I've been talking to some parent mentors about, would they be willing to try out a virtual site visit? Would they prefer to try an in-person site visit? So we would like to get a mix of virtual and in-person. And the reason I'm mentioning this to you, in addition to the fact that many of you work pretty closely with the parent mentors in your region, is that you'll be invited if you would like to attend and it fits in your schedule. You'll be invited to the site visit meeting. It will be about an hour. It's not a huge time commitment, but of course, it's up to you whether you're able to attend and have that time and space in your schedule. It might be a good way for you, if you do already connect with your parent mentor, to be able to have a voice about all the great things they're doing. We would love to hear about that, answer any questions you may have. But if you have not connected with a parent mentor, this also may be a good opportunity to kind of see what is in their individual scope of work, and see how it might make sense to connect based on the work that you do. So where we're at now with it is finalizing the list right now. If you're going to be an SST that will be a part of this pilot site visit, you'll get an email communication from me as meetings are scheduled, just to invite you. But I wanted to make sure you know this was not any kind of requirement, but we would love to have you attend if you can. And that is actually it for me. Does anyone have any questions regarding either of those updates, any comments, or anything that has come to you about the roadmap or charting the life course that you would like to toss out there now?
This is Kim. Thank you so much on the assessment part to include that interpretive score report. I saw that it was on there, but it means so much to be able to have something that explains, when, especially the one for the alternate assessment, to explain to families what those scores mean. So thank you for including it. And I think it's just so underutilized. So any way we can share that would be amazing. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you for sharing out. Appreciate it. All right. Well, thanks again for your time this morning, and I'll put both of our emails again into the chat while we turn it over to the team from the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities to share with you about the Guide to Parents' Rights in Special Education.
Thank you, Lindsay and Sarah. And thank you everyone for having us today as your guests. I hope everybody's staying warm. So we are going to try to give you a high-level overview in a half an hour in a short amount of time. So there is a lot of work that went into this. Just, am I able to share my screen? Do I have the
Yes,
sharing
you should be able
ability?
to. There you go.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed that you guys just seen that messy desktop. Okay, we're just gonna forget that happened. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview. And many of you, I think we've seen some repeat people today in the audience. So if you have seen this, we've been on tour with OEC is what we're calling it. And so you might have already seen this presentation. So if you have, just try to bear with us. You might catch on to something new as we're going through it. And I think a lot of you probably already know who OCECD is, but just giving you a little brief overview. We are a statewide nonprofit organization who has held the PTI grant, the Parent Training Information Grant, since 1984. And that is something we are very proud of. We help parents go through, we help them ultimately become effective representatives for themselves. And we do that many ways through training, supports, technical assistance. And then also, we also have organizations throughout Ohio who have been members for a long time. So, and our services are no cost to parents, and we help give families a voice. So with that being said, my name is Tammy Sebastian, and I'm the statewide program coordinator. I just want to briefly introduce my colleagues if they would come on and introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Erin Hinkle. I am the information specialist and trainer for West Central Ohio. Glad to be here this morning.
Good morning. I'm Elaine Hamilton. I'm an information specialist and trainer in Central Ohio. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Elaine and Erin. And so just to get us started, I think you probably are all aware that the rule revisions have been going through a process. If Monica Dravoto was here today, she would give you she would give you how long this has really been going on. And happy to say too that the rules did just pass through JCAR. So that is something that we're excited. Oh, I see Thomas clapping. Listen, we were all clapping with that. Yeah. So it's been a long process. So we're just kind of giving you the timeline. I'm not going to, because we don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to go through each step of the way. As you guys can see, we were hoping for winter, the new version of the rules would be passed. And I know this might come up, so I'm going to try to be proactive in the fact of when are we going to see a rollout. There is not a definite timeline yet, but OEC has been very responsive in the comments back from districts, parents as well, in the fact that this is something that they do not want to implement during the year. They would like to, halfway through the year. So we're hoping that it's going to be in the summer. We're going to have a smooth sailing and everything's going to start rolling out then. So no strict, hard, fast deadlines or timelines for that. And so with that, just talk a little bit about the Office for Exceptional Children partnership with OCECD. We are working on many projects with them. And this is, I have to say, this is one of our highest honors, one of the most valuable that we have had, humbling, I would say, experience. It was a lot of work and a lot of collaboration, and OEC has been with us every step of the way. We've had weekly meetings with them. And I think we started back in, correct me if I'm wrong, February to actually start the project work. So just a little background on that we met for the OCECD team met 4 days a week, 2.5 hours a day since February working on this. So it was not an easy project by any means. So just a little bit about why we're here. Again, you are all aware that every 5 years, operating standard, we have to look at the operating standards and do the rule revisions. And so they also, at the beginning of the work, OEC really wanted to make sure that they included the parent perspective on this. And they thought, who better to have that parent perspective than the state PTI, the Parent Training Information Center. Not only are we boots on the ground, but we're the lived experience. Every single person who works at the Ohio Coalition is a parent or an individual or a family member of an individual with a disability. So that is the uniqueness that we bring to this. Elaine and Aaron, did you want to add anything here?
No, you're
I don't
good so
think so.
far.
I think
Yeah.
you've done well.
We also work directly too with the families and the schools and the educational agencies, always fostering that relationship throughout, when we are going in there and supporting parents and help them to become effective representatives. We are also fostering that relationship as well. So, and why are we here? We also needed to make sure that we had a clear, we wanted to make sure that parents had a good understanding, diversity, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go through. And so again, we won't stay long here because I think you all are very much aware of what the procedural safeguards are, what is the parent notice, and how many times you have to give it. We wanted to show you the current version that we're currently using, and then we will kind of unveil what we've been working on. But before we do that, one of the tough questions that we had to come across is when we started to work on this. We also know we've had previous versions. And one of the things that we wanted to really look at is what worked, what didn't work, what were the comments. And when we started, we were provided, as you know, when the rules were being revised, it all went out for public comment. So the Office for Exceptional Children made sure that we had all those comments. We looked at those first. We looked at other states' parent notice and the procedural safeguards that they provided. We took a look at that, but then most importantly, we were like, before we even get started, what's required? What is required of the parent notice? And it was very interesting because if you look at this checklist, and we got a lot of comments back and feedback from a guide, which we started affectionately calling a guide to shorten it. And a lot of the responses when a guide came out was that they felt it was not being proactive, that it was really just addressing when there was an issue. But if you see this checklist, there was a reason for that, because that is what was required by federal law to report. And they were doing that based on feedback that whose idea was very text heavy, very hard for parents to navigate, so much so, and there was a lot of great information in there. So all the versions had their pros and cons. Whose idea had a lot of great information there, but it was so hard to go through that one of the coalition's trainings, parents' rights trainings, we would actually walk parents through and tab those sections so they knew where to go for what. So that's where we started. So I wanted to just take you back there and give you a little bit of history before we start. And Elaine and Aaron, if I'm forgetting anything, please jump in, or if you want to add.
You're good.
Okay, because I could, I'm trying to get it in my timeline.
I know.
And so we're going to hop ahead just a little bit and talk about, and you know what? So I'm unveiling. So as you know, and you've seen with Lindsay and Sarah, the work that, and actually maybe even your agencies might have worked on things as well. But we've seen that there has been this huge roadmap theme. And actually, when we first started off, we thought about calling it a blueprint. However, we've seen that OEC, I think at the time we were kind of simultaneously working on the evaluation roadmap as we were doing this. We had seen that come out a lot. We've seen a lot of different agencies coming out with roadmap theme. And we just thought that was such a great concept for parents to understand. Yep. And we just started rolling with it, and we're like, oh my God, this is great. I just have to back up. And I will talk about the diversity, but one of the things that we had the opportunity, and I'm not sure if many of you are aware, we also have a multicultural program. And we have the ability to have bilingual information specialist, director. And so we had made sure that we, and she's not with us, she's left the coalition due to some, personal issues. However, she was with us all the way up until the end, Elaine and Aaron, I would say up till the end of the creation of this document. And when I tell you that every word that we put in this document, she made sure that this was going to translate well, in Spanish at least. And so,
So often when we go to translate these documents, we do it after the fact. We write it. The language can be too high level or not easy to translate. So we really were thinking the diversity of the parents and how is this going to work? We were thinking of it even before we translated it. So not that after the fact.
And the reason why I bring that up with the compass is because we were like, oh, let's call it the navigator. She says, no, that's not going to translate well. Let's think of something else. So, and so we were very happy that we had that. And that will be easy when they go to translate. So with that being said, welcome into the roadmap theme. We had thought there were so many good best practices. We received a lot of comments back from the rural comments. We have been doing stakeholder input all the way through. I think we've met with SAPAC two times. We've met
Three,
with
actually.
Oh, three, because we also did the executive committee too. We've met with OCECD, we've met with the rural leads. I mean, we've been on tour. When I say we've been on tour, we've been on tour. And one of the things that came out of a lot of the comments were that there was a need for a deeper dive. There was a need for best practices that necessarily, we couldn't change the law, but there's best practices that districts and parents could use. So we thought this is where the compass came alive and the toolkit, which would not be, and I just want to make sure that I really cover this, it would not be something that the parents need in order to understand the parent notice. It would just be a deeper dive. It would be supporting information, but nothing they would need in order to understand that. And so with that came alive the compass, and we have been developing the compass all along the way as we were creating the document. And so this is just not an exhaustive list, obviously, but some of the things that are not included in the parent notice, shockingly enough, is getting into the IEP process. There's a lot of great surrogate parent practices, best practices that we would like to cover, early childhood, preschool. And so we may have mentioned these areas. They might be in, we have like a little blurb about it in the parent notice, but then we're telling them for a deeper dive, they can go to the compass and toolkit. One of the very first questions that we have heard from districts, state support teams, agencies is, are the districts going to be required to give the compass to the parents? And that's a no. Of course, we're going to highly encourage that. And where is that going to live is still being worked out. It'll probably be, we're thinking it'll probably be a website on the Ohio Coalition page. And again, have not worked all those things out.
And we will be mentioning the compass throughout the parent notice too, with short links for parents to be able to go and get that extra information. So it will be mentioned quite a few times, so parents will be able to find that information easily.
Right. And I also want to say too, when you see this and we're talking, one of our biggest challenges as we were going and getting that stakeholder feedback and input was we wanted to be really mindful that we were not presenting a complete document and telling people that we want their input. So the challenge with that is you're seeing a lot of raw material. You're not seeing all the visuals. You're seeing some of the visuals, but we could not really feel like we were being authentic in that engagement and that feedback, and then giving you a completed document and saying, yeah, we really value your input, but we don't have any plans on changing that. And we had to be mindful to our IT specialist, Nick, who is what you see is all what he creates based on what we were giving him. So part of the process was our stakeholder checkpoints. And you know, again, I think I gave you a lot of those, Aaron and I and Elaine. OcaliCon, we did a presentation at OcaliCon. It's, if you guys did attend that, you're probably seeing the same presentation. And a lot of cross-referencing of documents. So each one of us, someone was holding whose idea, someone was holding the rule, someone was holding the guide. We cross-referenced until our eyes crossed. It was a lot of cross-referencing because we really wanted to make sure that we were taking, and there was a lot of stuff that in the guide you might see that we brought over. They were like, we don't want to lose this. There were things from whose idea that we brought back. So really needed to do that and have that cross-referencing. And then again, we had those OEC weekly feedback meetings. We are still meeting. We talked about that, looking at other states' parent notices. So I have to tell you, I really am proud of what we have compared to other states. So, and maybe the other states will look at what we have and you know, shoot for that as well. And we already touched on that, you know, the roadmap theme and history. I just briefly want to say, and I think Terry, if I'm not mistaken, was on one of our last meetings and she gave us the date. So we can always rely on Terry McEntee for a history and knowing the dates. But we brought up the fact that at one of the SAPAC input when we were presenting, a parent had reminded us that there was the triptych back in, so Terry can throw it in the chat. It was at 2000s, early 2000s. So there's a history. There is a history with this roadmap with parents. And the feedback we got from the parent is she loved it. So this document is all about being parent friendly. And so we also tied in. So for those of you I seen in the chat, I was so excited when I seen how much you love the evaluation roadmap. We actually connected the evaluation roadmap to this document. I do have to say, we were very mindful, and that's another question that comes up a lot about adding links. Adding links, we really moved away from, because in order to make it parent friendly and in order to make it accessible by all, we had to be mindful that some families might not have that access. So if we were putting a link there, we were actually putting an explanation so they wouldn't have to rely on the link to get the information, if that makes sense. So I know we all like to throw links in and give as many links as we can, but we were really mindful not to do that, only in situations where we really felt they had to. What we're calling the mission and vision is actually the notices part of the document. We talked about that equity and diversity, that it was a top priority, and it wasn't lip service, that we actually made sure that this was going to be accessible by all, that we honored the uniqueness of what a family member means, or what a parent means. That doesn't always, you know, look like a mom and dad in the house. So we made sure that we honored that every step of the way. And we really put an emphasis on you, the parent and the guardian, throughout the document. We've received feedback, you know, like this, the districts use this document too, and we know that, but it is called the parent notice. It is the procedural safeguards of the parent. So we wanted them to take ownership. And so we emphasize the you throughout that. And then oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we also made sure that we were aware of different learning styles of parents. Some are visual learners. And so we tried to take that into consideration as well when we were developing certain, some of the visuals that we're using throughout the document. So we wanted to make sure that was throughout the document.
Wasn't so context heavy. So a lot of our parent notices, it's just text. And, you know, for some people that's really hard to read that information and really truly understand it, because some of these topics are confusing for families. So we did take that into account.
Yeah, I think we could all get the Wordsmith Award, because we really made sure that if there was something that we didn't understand, But we are also mindful too. I just have to say this, when we made sure it was parent friendly in language, that we also made sure that we took the opportunity to teach at the, as the PTI, we want to make sure that we're not taking away that language, that we're building that language. And so if we had that opportunity to teach, we put that in our common language section. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. I just wanted to briefly say, when we talked about the collaboration, I know I just flipped my slides. I'm sorry, let me go back. A little bit about the collaboration too. When we talked about looking at other states' parent notices, and hopefully that it would catch on. I just wanted to let everybody know too, just recently, if anybody is aware, CADRE, which is the Center for Alternate Dispute Resolution, we have the honor of being on, there are monthly, what we call, it's a networking. Elaine, do I have the
Topical
right name for it?
calls.
The topical calls.
Mhm.
And it's networking through PTIs through CADRE. And what we have heard throughout our time this past year is that a lot of parent training information centers were struggling with the collaboration with the state or the SEAs. And so CADRE recognized our work on the parent notice document. So we will be presenting nationally to other PTIs on how to build that collaboration. So we hope it catches on. And then also we were very mindful in the beginning, and when we talk about that mission and vision, that we took that lead of collaborating with our state department and the PTI together, and that we could be a model for school districts and parents to facilitate that relationship. And we actually talked a little bit about it in the document as well. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
Nope. We have
No?
about 10 minutes.
Okay, good. I can get through it. I can do it. So why will this be different? We talked a little bit about that, and you are seeing, if you can see up here, this is the guide. And then you got a little sneak peek at the build, but as we're building it along. So we have, as you can see down here, when Elaine was talking about the tabs, we went ahead and tabbed those sections for them so they're easy to find. Bolder words, larger fonts, and then plain language. So as we went through the document, as much as we talked about, looking at different words, we also asked the 3 questions that plain language asks. And can your reader easily find the information they need? Can the reader understand the information? And will the reader be able to use the information the way you wrote it? And we ask those questions every step of the way. And then we're so happy about the glossary of common language. So that's where we said that's that opportunity to teach parents that language. And then also we brought back the definition section. So we've got a lot of response on that everybody was very happy that the definitions were coming back. And then what's next? So you're part of that. We are doing parent professional forums. We held our first parent forum last week.
Yeah,
The days are blurring
I know.
before break. And we received really good feedback on our first parent forum. So we're excited about that. But we are very open. I just want to say, and OEC, I know I can speak for Monica and Paris as well, because they have said this. We want to hear. We want to hear what's not working. We want to hear, and we feel, or what you feel could be added. And there's so many opportunities we feel, not only with the parent notice document, but we also feel like with the Compass, we feel like there might be even collaborations along the way in building that. So we're excited. And then there will also be, there is a process, I have to tell you, and that's another question that comes up. This still has to go through legal on OEC's end. And we have our own editing that it has to go through. So it's still going to be a process as we're walking through it. There's also going to be, this was a thought in the very beginning, that there would be future trainings around the document for parent and professionals. I just want to give you guys some dates for January in case you want to jump on. And in February, we will, and you might already, Paris and Monica might already have your names, but in February, Elaine and Aaron, do you have the dates? We are going to be doing our professional forums.
I think
So that,
we're doing them in January, and I think it was the
oh, did I say
19th.
February?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm wishful thinking through January.
So
I
January
apologize.
19th and 26th, we were going to do the professional. And I think we were thinking midday, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. So, and we can drop Sarah or Lindsay, would you guys be able to put Paris and Monica's email there? So if you are interested in attending those, you could email them as well. And so here, we're just going to take you through what you've seen, just like a bigger version. And I'm
Sneak
sorry,
peek.
sneak peek, and I'm sorry we don't have time today to take you through the entire document, but we only have a half an hour. So if you do want to see, you will get a copy. If you do attend the professional forums, you will get a copy an hour before to review it. And so that might be a way that you can come and provide your feedback too. And this is the parent participation child find page, just kind of giving you guys a little bit. And if you see up here, this is actually, I think we took this one right from, not the transition one, was it the evaluation roadmap?
Evaluation, yep.
Yeah, for eligibility. There's stop signs throughout the way, wherever we felt that there was comment. So where you see the stop sign, wherever there was a word that we felt was common language, the parent's going to see the stop sign along the way. It's going to take them to that section. I also want to say too, we made sure as we were going throughout the document, and we were very mindful that a parent or a district or an agency might not be reading a 42-page document from front to back. So we wanted to make sure that they had enough information if they were only coming to that section, and that we front loaded as much as possible. So that was another consideration as we went through. So that is it. I can now stop sharing and I'm sorry, and here is our contact information. If you want to send us, if you want to sign up for the forum too, you could send it, but it would probably be best to go through Monica and Paris for the professional.
Yeah.
And then if you guys have any feedback, if you were just thinking about stuff today, based on what we said, that is our email addresses. And I think one of us can drop that in the chat as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kind of open it up for feedback. Okay.
Yes, well, first of all, I think some people are probably thinking of questions or comments right now, so keep thinking about those, bring those to the front of your mind. But I do want to just take a moment right now while you're thinking to thank the coalition for coming by today. Such a force for children and families in the state. And this is going to be kind of important to our work. And so I hope that you're thinking about getting in the mix there on those resources. I also want to thank Sarah and Lindsay for stopping by today. But we'll pause here before we have some time to break out and discuss these things. If anyone has questions for any of the speakers that have stopped by today, I'm going to stop talking and see what you have to say. Thank you, Tammy. Okie dokie. Well, if there are no questions coming up, we have a ton of people's contact information in this chat, so we'll make sure to connect you all with that. But I want to also ask that you all give your gratitude to our speakers today in the chat if you can. We're really excited to have this. We think that making sure that we're all on the same page as you're out there connecting with schools and families around this work is absolutely crucial. And we want to ensure that your voices are heard in some of the process and development as well. So again, I just thank all of you from OCECD and the Office for Exceptional Children today for stopping by, and we will promise to be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So what we're actually going to move into now is a continuation around this conversation, because, you know, we can't just listen and leave it there. We got to figure out what we're going to do next with all the great information and resources we received. So, am I sharing the right screen? Do you guys see some drafts by any chance? Okay, thank you there. We're going to do one more thing before we take a little break. I know it's been we got in here and hit the ground running, but really quick, while this is fresh in our mind, want to break up into some small groups, probably around 4 people for the next 10 minutes or so, and just discuss what you took from this. What are some things you're going to bring into your work? What are some things that you're happy to see? I think that rulemaking process, if you've been a part of those special education rules at all, it's like been wild. So I'm sure some of you are relieved to see some of this work moving along. But I want to start there. What are you going to bring into your work? What are you excited about? The next thing I also want to make sure that you get to is what other type of learning might you need, or elaboration to be able to use these things when they're live. Some of them were more ready to rock than others, but what additional learning might be needed to make the connection to your work? And then lastly, if you get to it, any ways that you think we could support these tools and resources and make sure they're getting to the right hands of people. So if people are comfortable with these questions, reviewing the last hour or so of things, we'll get into there and then get heading to a break after we come back. So I'm going to break up these rooms real quick. Oh, hello there. Welcome back from your breakout rooms. I hope that you all had a lot to chit chat about there. I'm wondering just really quick, before we take a break, if anyone felt compelled to, you know, share any good ideas or things that came up in their group that you think would be fruitful for our entire network to be privy to.
Tom, one of the things that our group talked about was we're all getting older, but our families seem to be getting younger. And we talked about technology access and how families are so used to video presentations and things like that. So we thought if there was a link to the new, I'm going to call it the new Who's Ideal. I'll tell you how old I am. You know, after every topic, like a 30-second video to say, in layman's terms, real quickly, this is what this means. You know, some sort of a video, audio kind of component to, you know, explain it and break it down a little further.
Hey,
Yeah.
Tom, this is Ed. One thing we talked about, and I'm sure that may come in the spring, but something we need more information on would be what's the expectations of the ambassadors once they're trained in each SST, the 2 educators and the 2 parent mentors, because that'll be crucial in determining, especially who the educators are. You know, if it's a SST person, we may be able to do more regional stuff. If it's a district, it may be a little more limited based on their capacity, but need more information, but I'm sure we're going to get it in the spring.
Okie dokie. Hopefully, I know it's a quick break, but hopefully you can get back with us here for a couple minutes so that we can go over something new and cool again. Big morning, a lot of stuff coming through from Office of Exceptional Children and partners, a whole diversity of things to think about, really cool. So we're gonna recenter ourselves on something that I mentioned at the beginning of this year was gonna kind of be a continuing thread for us in our work as those who work on behalf of students with disabilities and families. So as you guys are familiar with, we have this partnering with families through the special education process brief here. In this brief, there are strategies to help families and schools come together around this topic. We also in this work acknowledge that you all work directly in this space, and a lot of what's in here might not necessarily be brand new to you. So we want to bring your perspectives to bring these strategies to life. And by doing that, we've been going through kind of a jigsaw type practice and activity together. And that's kind of what we are going to keep doing today. So hopefully you are all with me here, because we are going to be breaking out into smaller groups in just a few moments. And it's going to work, if you remember last time, pretty much the same way that we did this. I will be dropping a Google Doc link in the chat here. And in this Google Doc, there is a page for every strategy in this guide. Here is the link in the chat. The link's also on the website if you got that open alongside you. But what we're basically going to do here is we're going to break up into 4 discussion groups. If you are in an odd number breakout room, please discuss the odd number strategy 3. If you are in an even number breakout room, please take some time to discuss the even number strategy 4. There are some prompts in the Google Doc. So synthesize that strategy is one prompt. What is a coaching prompt that you might use trying to link this strategy to a school's practice? And then finally, you know, how does this look like in your work as a consultant? I know that'll look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So pretty straightforward, I think. I'll pause here to see if you have any questions or anything before we get started. Okay, so we're going to get into groups of 4 groups right now. You should be seeing that pop up on your screen at this moment. Okay, welcome back, friends. So we're going to take about 10-15 minutes here to go over and kind of have an opportunity for those of you that worked on strategy 3 to kind of share with our strategy 4 people the big takeaways that you had for that is, and then kind of reverse that and have a little teaching from strategy 4 to strategy 3. So I got the big document shared up here. And I got to just say thank you all for diving right in. Great stuff in here already. I've been following along. But I just wanted to offer if there was anybody from those odd groups that wanted to get us started thinking about what this strategy meant to them.
Hi, Tom. I was the recorder for my group. We were group 3 for strategy 3. And I really loved the way we kind of summed up strategy 3 as like really focusing on that 2-way reciprocal communication, getting information back from families, which you need kind of a relationship and a good solid communication strategy to have. We talked about proactivity, getting rid of fluff and jargon, because everyone's busy. Everyone's got a lot going on in their lives, and that families of students with a suspected or confirmed sort of disability are no different, and maybe even more so busy and dealing with a lot of things. So that was a lot of what we talked about for synthesizing. And do you want me to go on to potential coaching prompts too?
Throw one out there. Yeah, give us a prompt.
Okay. We talked a little bit about in our group making sure that families have support in their home language, because you can have a really clear communication in English and it's not really going to mean much to somebody who only speaks French. So just really tuning into home language and maybe some coaching prompts around being positive and proactive. So beyond just asking, maybe the coaching prompt of, are we being positive and proactive enough? Like, what is that first communication? Is it early enough? Is it positive and hopeful enough? Does it invite partnership from the beginning? And then my colleagues talked about how they apply this strategy in their work as a consultant, always really inserting into conversations about other things. How are you engaging families in this process? So no matter what the conversation is. And then also so hopefully nicely reminded Terry that, one of her, strengths as I see it is sharing about her lived experiences related to special education as a means of driving improvement in the education system. And I know many of you do that when you're talking to schools and coaching them.
Great points. Thank you. I'm wondering if anyone from group 1 then wants to jump in to add to that. Take maybe some things that you took away that might be different and how you might coach on this.
I can kind of jump in a little bit here. I'll put up my camera. I think a lot of times we redefine engagement, and I say this all the time, so I feel like I'm repeating myself because I use this as a coaching prompt all the time with a lot of my teams. Engagement is not just attending something or showing up. Engagement is really taking an active role in want to encourage that kind of dialogue more than just checkbox answers, so that families really feel like they have autonomy of the way things are going with their child's education.
Yeah, I think that is a really crucial point. Families are, I just wrote something the other day, families are the most interested party in their child's education, even if we are well positioned to help guide that and provide, expertise and next steps and resources. We always have to start right there and supporting families to do that the best they can. Wondering if Dr. Hicks wants to jump in to share just any thoughts that you maybe had putting together strategy 3 here.
Yeah, the proactive nature, which I heard some people bring up, and I think it was even listed with that strategy. But the proactive nature is, I think, sometimes what, kind of gets left by the wayside. I think also that two-way communication. A lot of times schools, especially if we're used to the structure and used to what's coming next, we're sending out communication and we're kind of doing it our way and not always thinking about ways of inviting families into the conversation or just allowing them to also share their information. So this is obviously particularly important with special education. I think a lot of our communication comes around what's required for special education and not always thinking about kind of those extra moments or extra ways to include family in conversations. And although all students who come through like an MTSS or with a child study team, although they don't always start there, sometimes a special ed team's first time seeing a student is when they're put forth for evaluation. But sometimes there are those opportunities to build relationship with a family before the conversation of special education even even comes to the table. So looking for those proactive ways to make sure that we're inviting in conversation from families, letting them know, instead of just saying, do you have any questions? I used to, actually in my training, we were always kind of told not to ask it in that way, ask almost more specifically, or pausing after each kind of step to invite families to respond to something specific. Because if you wait to the end or halfway through an IEP meeting or, an evaluation meeting and say, hey, do you have any questions? A lot of times families are overwhelmed by the information they've heard and don't even know where to start with a question. So yeah, just want to make sure I'm focusing on that, emphasizing the two-way communication, but also proactive communication. Just looking for those maybe unexpected ways to invite families into the conversation.
Jumping down to our even groups, 2 and 4 breakout groups. I'm wondering if you all, someone from either group 2 or group 4 want to jump in and just restate kind of the strategy in the words they used, and then get to what this looks like in practice for you all.
Okay, Tom, silence is over.
Go.
I took notes for group 4, and we talked a lot about voices and using the team, being inclusive and empowering, and really including families in meaningful ways, which you'll see on here. But then when we looked at the coaching prompts, we talked a lot about how you make sure that those family voices are heard. And then around parent education, what are some opportunities for supporting families outside of the IEP process? And would family forums provide those learnings? And then someone in the group really talked about how do we empower families before we start formal interactions or meetings. And you'll see in the notes, we conversed with the other room through our notes because they really liked that a lot, they said. So we thank them for that. And then as far as applying the strategy, we talked about supporting districts and creating, when we're supporting and creating districts, those internal monitoring teams, we noticed that families are often missing from that. And would there be a way to really articulate the process to families and include them? So getting all stakeholder input when we're doing that work. That was our room. And then the other room had some other things.
Anybody from the other room want to jump in?
I can share from the other room. First, we found it was very helpful that we were all typing into this Google Doc at the same time, because then we could see things that we were trying to say and they said, and we were like, yes, that's what we liked. So we really talked about not just including families or saying that you're including families, but making sure that it's in a really meaningful way, that they're really, someone in our group even said, not just that they're in the room, not just that they're at the table, but that they're really part of the whole process. And as far as coaching prompts, making sure, asking, how are you making sure that family voices are being heard, and where do you document that? How is it really part of the process? And then also considering children as well, when they're old enough or able to be part of that process, how are you including them? And then really, when we're working as consultants, providing information to families as we're able to, and asking the questions, kind of probing, how are you including families? How are you really including families? How could you implement some of these processes? And then if we are able to, we all said we would love to be able to help districts maybe prepare for some meetings, especially their harder meetings, beforehand. And even though we're not in them, then reflect with them afterwards, as opposed to waiting and getting those phone calls afterwards that something went wrong and they need advice. So if we could help be proactive about that when we're able to.
Yeah, great, just great points again. Yes, Kim, I was just about to bring that up. We, people in this network have developed kind of a great starting point of considerations for having really productive meetings. I think a lot of it was written with the IEP type meeting in mind, though I think we would also say it goes, beyond that to all different types of meetings. But I just want to throw that out there. And as I have a moment in a minute or two, I'll throw the link in the chat as well if you all haven't had that yet. I also just like something that stuck out to me here that's just so beautiful. It's like both wonderful and kind of a challenge of this is that all of these strategies really are kind of building on each other, right? So this is great because we can kind of make some progress, identify gaps when things aren't going super well with this strategy or there. Maybe we're not doing the best. If you don't have communication in place, you're probably not going to get strategy for all the way to the finish line either. So that is great, but one of your roles as a coach might be helping a district pick where to start, because we can't do everything at the same time also. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Hicks again. If you have any comments on strategy 4, and just if you wanted to also kind of give a final word or summation of kind of some of the things you heard here today.
Sure. I first of all just want to commend you all. I feel like this is fantastic. It feels like definitely a reflection of the folks that we have in the room and the work that you all do, that you can really come up with these coaching prompts and apply this work. That's what I think I might have mentioned it last time, but that's really the goal of this summary that we've put together, is to make it actionable, right? We don't want to just kind of share tips and things and they fall on deaf ears, but we want to make sure that they are definitely something that makes waves in your communities and in your schools with your family. And so just want to commend you all for the work that you did today. It sounds like you are well on your way. I always want to emphasize that GLOWs and GROWs, I believe, worksheet that's toward the end, that if you want to take this work to your teams or start those conversations around the coaching prompts, to do some reflection on that worksheet. I'm not sure the page number, but it's definitely toward the end of the document, just to start to reflect on how these are working in your specific team, and kind of where you all are hoping to go from there. But yeah, I think you all are well on your way, and thanks so much for diving into this work in this time that we have together.
Absolutely. So I just want to mention, I'm glad you guys have benefited from the Google Doc in the moment, but the Google Doc is also there so you can revisit some of these ideas and prompts as things come up in your districts and anything. If further questions emerge or you have other points you'd like to share, feel free to pass those on to me, and we'll be sure to get those for Dr. Hicks or other appropriate parties when necessary. So thank you for stopping by, Dr. Hicks. We look forward to strategies 5 and 6 in our next meeting, and thank you again.
Thank you all.
Okay, so bringing that with us into our new learning, I want to stop right here. You've heard a lot from our center. You've heard from the Office of Exceptional Children. You've heard from special education practitioners in our center as well. You heard from our center twice there, I guess. But wondering if we want to stop here and just share some announcements from the field, any announcements that you all have, any whole group type questions. We will have a small group breakout for maybe more specific discussions in a little bit, but if there's anything on your minds, I know that some people in this room have been in conversation with me kind of ahead of time. So I'd like to invite any of those now. Thank you.
Tom, do you want me to say something in this section or you want me to wait for a little bit?
No, go, let's get this on the table.
Okay, so Tammy, I reached out to Tammy, because in SST1, they have those amazing parent quick guides. And I was looking through them and I noticed that some of them still refer to whose idea is it and older procedural safeguards. And I just was wondering if this could be an opportunity for us as a group, or maybe as a work group, or maybe this could be an OEC project. I'm just putting it on the table that we look at those, we revisit those and update them or look at the questions. And I think this is a great group of minds with a family perspective that we could use to do that. And if you're not familiar with the Parent Quick Guides there, I think Region 1 created like 10 different examples. And I've seen them on SST5 website. I've seen them, they're definitely on our website, and I'm sure other SSTs have as well. But what I really like about them is it's a parent quick guide to like the evaluation team process, for example. And it defined words in family-friendly language. It kind of gave a very brief overview. And then it had a list of questions for the families to be able to ask the school district. So I always say I'm not good with a blank page. Like, just give me some starters, give me some starter points. I really think this would be a good opportunity to look at them, and maybe it's not something that they all need to be revisited or revised, but Tammy has given her blessing, and I just wanted to present it to the group to see what you guys thought. Or if you even know what I'm talking about, I suppose I could put them in chat too.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could share those for people who aren't familiar, because I even know we do have kind of a new, some rookies in the room still. So if you could pass those along. And I also, when Kim brought this to my attention, I thought this just dovetailed so nicely with kind of some of the things we heard about this morning. And, you know, one of those reflection questions that I asked you afterwards was, okay, so like, where do we come in to continue to kind of support this work? And I'm wondering if this is a great spot. I can think of ways that we could do the whole group in this network, or, you know, kind of put it in a work group or something. But yeah, what are people's reactions to that? And, or do you know of similar kind of resources and stuff?
I love the idea of updating those. I'm wondering if it would be best to wait until the other resources that we've heard about today come out, so that we make sure, A, we're not duplicating what they've already done, because it sounds like those resources are going to be very, very family friendly. And then B, they're aligned, so we can use the same language and possibly even graphics with their permission and all of that kind of stuff, just to make sure we're not reinventing anything, and then everything's aligned so that we're not inadvertently confusing people. Just a thought.
Good one.
And with the new procedurals, or the new operating standards just being released too, it'd be wise to wait, I suppose, for that too. And I accidentally, the first link I put in there, guys, is the wrong one. So look at the second one. That's referring to the quick guides. And it's not all special education. There's also like one on OIP. So there's different ways that we could support families. 504s, FBAs, different ways. So Tammy, that's a good point. Just waiting to see what these new things are that are coming out from OEC. And I do think the operating standards would be important too.
Great points. I do though also recognize Kim, what you're saying, because we always kind of end up in this space and of like, okay, well, if you talk about like any kind of subgroup of student, if you will, like one of the first things that always comes up in the family engagement was like, oh, well, how much is the family aware of this process, or of you know, this type of procedure? And some of those things do go beyond the real specifics of special education. So I think it'd be good, maybe at our next meeting, we can just look through some of these together, point out some like big observations that people might have about them, and then look towards connecting some of these dots in the future as this great work continues.
I think it kind of ties into our fourth strategy that we just talked about with empowering families, because it gives them, you know, like, hey, we're coming up, we're going to be doing this FBA. Here's a little, it's a one page handout, both sides with information about it. So when they do participate in something like a 3-letter FBA, what is that? What does that mean? And what are some questions? I really like the question part of it. And like I said, maybe some of them are really good, but it could be a chance to add some new ones, but still keep it concise, still keep it family friendly. But thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for bringing it up. And I think you've got a lot of people interested in this, and I think that I will be weaving it into future conversations. So thank you for making my job easier. So that's great. We're going to keep moving on that one. I want any other announcements from SST Space, Partner Space, that people would like to know or to share as we go into another calendar year, just a couple days away. Okie dokie. Well, that's okay. If anything does come to your mind, feel free to throw it in the chat or let me know. And now, of course, I got all your email addresses. I'd be happy to send anything out that you ever need sent out. So always keep that in mind. We're going to take a second here to do just a smidge of independent thinking about this meeting. I'm going to invite you all to jump on the Mentimeter really quick, and I'm actually going to share a link for you in the chat as well. You can either scan the QR code here with your telephone, or click on this link I'm dropping in the chat right now. And we're just going to do a couple of questions. Shouldn't really take anyone more than 5 minutes or so. But we're just gonna, think about the meeting a little bit today before we set up to kind of our final activities. So got a lot of options to log in here. So please let me know if any of this is becoming difficult for you. I actually also think I might have to do something.
I was able to click the link, Tom, and get into the
It's
survey.
looking good.
Yes, at least on my end, it looks good.
Thank you for the feedback. All right, let's see if other people are clicking around here. Oh my,
I think I have to wait for you to change the slide to get to the second question, but as I was able to respond to the first question, and then we can.
Oh, I see.
Whenever you're ready.
Yes, my apologies. I'm like a veteran Zoomer, but no, still working on Mentimeter. Still doing my coursework there. Okay. So we got 60 of us. I'm just gonna give it about a couple more seconds. I'm gonna move into the next slide. Maybe I'll say 5 seconds. Okay, so that new one hopefully comes up for you there.
It did.
Thank you. Okie dokie, we'll just do about 15-20 more seconds on this one. Okay, and I think there's just one more for us here. There might be two more, so don't hold me to that. Just about 10 or 15 more seconds on this one. Get your vote in if you can. And the last one, just let me know what you're thinking about. We'll spend about maybe 90 seconds on this one and be moving out.
Tom, for these ones, are you able to pull up on the screen so everyone can see what people are submitting?
Sure.
There we go.
So indicator 8 will definitely be coming. I got a preview, so I know that's coming, but yeah, I know. But that is coming. We're just waiting on our partners at the Department of Education to give a thumbs up that it's all ready to be seen. Cool. Yeah, so this one, I just want to address directly about the coaching prompts. If you remember our FC Network webpage, it is always there. And all the resources are there. And this link will be continued to be posted with every meeting that we go to through special education brief. But anyways, you can go back to our meeting from today, click the Google Doc, all that stuff's going to be there. So hopefully you find that there. What else? Cool. Good. Thank you. Yeah, the secondary transition roadmap is really cool. Hey, that's a good question. We can actually stop about on this one really quick before we move on. Has anyone brought any of the coaching prompts or things that you talked about in previous meetings into the work? How's that going?
I like that growth mindset language, Kim.
Yes, maybe it could be a fun little game to play next time you're coaching a district. Maybe you can challenge yourself to slip one in there and give yourself a little gold star if you do. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like the work that we're doing in this meeting is meant to move out of this meeting, so just bring it that's the forefront and talking about it is helpful. Okay. We're like a little bit behind schedule, which is fine, because we're all having a great time. But I do want to keep chugging along here. Thank you for playing this little Mentimeter with me. This was Meredith's ingenious way of tricking you all into doing the survey at the end. So
Mid-meeting.
thank you for contributing to our ends as well. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you a breakdown for the rest of the meeting so everyone's primed and ready to go. Hopefully you're with me for the next 30 minutes or so. We're gonna have 10 minutes to just break out in small groups of about 3 people. Anything that you're going through in your work is fair game. Just make sure everyone kind of gets a chance to pitch in, share kind of what they're going through. So that's going to be roughly right, like 3 minutes per person, if you wouldn't mind. After that, we're going to have a quick regroup into work groups and hear a little bit more about the book study that some of you have told me that you want to be a part of. So we'll just break out into work groups for just about 10-15 minutes, kind of the time we have available at that point, so that people can just feel good moving into 2023. I know it's been a busy time. Maybe you haven't been able to go to them outside of the meeting. So check in here, know what you need to know, and get ready for the next year here. So with that, I will just drop y'all into these work groups, or not work groups, first breakout groups. We're calling on colleagues. Anything from your practice here that you can ask them. If I remember, I made breakout rooms a lot of times, and now I forget how. I'm just joking.
Can you reiterate? So how much time do we have in here? And 10 minutes. Okay.
Sorry, just so
And this
excited.
is just soliciting assistance from other people on things we're grappling with.
Yes, anything that comes up for you. I'm going to open these rooms now. 10 minutes, please.
Cool. Thank you.
we will talk about SST5 sometime. You're not off the you're not off the hook yet.
I'm sorry, I grabbed that time. I apologize.
No, that's what these meetings are for, what they need to be for. But can't leave my people in Region 5 hanging. Such a like undervalued part of Ohio. I feel like what a nice region you guys have up there. Some rolling hills, waterways. People really got to get up there. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully that was good for you all. What we're going to do now, as I said, I should probably share my screen, is get into our work groups just really quick. And I just want everyone, there will, I know some of you are in multiple work groups, or might want to kind of think about this book study thing. So there might need to be some decisions made about where you wind up, but we are just going to have about 10 minutes to get in our work groups. I want to stop really quick. Some of you reached out to me about participating in this book study, and I think we're ready to rock in January. So we want to get out some dates, collect some dates that are good for everybody. I have a short list of people who have replied to me via email. If you are also interested and have not replied to me via email, if you could just put your name in the chat or say, I want to do this in the chat, and I will add you to that list. And so we can get a meeting kind of organized around that. Oh, thank you. Cool. We got another person. Sorry, just going through the chat really quick. Yes, we'll try and make the dates work for everyone. We have 2 members of our staff who are currently in that class that no one else got into. So they will also be there to not lead the book study, but just be able to throw in any kind of nuggets that Dr. Khalifa left with them. So that's going to be, I think, pretty cool and enriching part as well. I'm going to connect with Krista and get maybe like a doodle poll or something out, so we can at least get one meeting where we can all kind of get there and start feeling good about this. Okay, but here's what we're going to do for the rest of the time. And I'm going to go in reverse order of my slides now, so that you guys can just leave when you're ready to leave, because you guys are working hard. You guys are working hard. You need a couple of minutes back, you can get them back. Next meeting is only about a month away, 6 weeks. So you're going to get a little break from me, but I'm going to be right back here on your computer screens on January 26th. Make sure you have that marked down. I might be reaching out to you a little earlier in January, because we might be having a little show and tell type situation. So there's a little primer for that. Also, just want to remind you, if you ever need anything, that's the link to my calendar. It's also on the website. I am available for you all anytime, phone, Zoom. I haven't been known to drive up to some regions once in a while, get to see the lay of the land. But outside of that, I'm going to open up work groups for these top 3 here. PBIs and family engagement, coordination, alignment, early literacy and family engagement. I'd really love for you all to jump into those work groups, say hi, catch people up, and then make sure that you got a next meeting on the calendar as we get into this really hectic time, personally and professionally for a lot of people. From there, you can just leave whenever you're done. I really appreciate everything you've done today, and you've shown great participation and engagement with our presenters and stuff. So I'm going to open up these rooms, and when you guys feel comfortable with your next steps as a work group, enjoy the day.